What's going on? This is Ryan with Automatic Comics, and up next we're going to talk about when to sell your comic books as well as some selling tips. Stay tuned. Alright, before we get started, please remember to hit that like button and hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. Before I get into the video, we had our winner for the Fantastic Four collaboration video that I did with Bry's Comics. We've been trying to reach out to you. It was Joe. You've commented on a lot of my videos, and so we've been responding to you, and we haven't heard back yet. And so if we don't hear back soon, we're going to have to pick a new winner. So we just want to let you know, if you see this video, please check your comments on the Fantastic Four top 10 videos. Brian's been trying to reach out to you so that he can send you your prize. If you don't reach out, like I said, we're gonna have to draw again. So this is kind of like the final warning. But all right, now let's get into this video. Now, I've talked a lot about buying comics. I'm doing a lot of market videos. I do a lot of unboxings where I'm buying books. But I haven't talked much about selling, and I've gotten a few questions on my videos in the comments about selling comics, when to sell, that kind of thing. So I thought it would be useful to put together a video like this. And feel free to take my advice or not. I do sell quite a bit, so I think I have some experience in this area, but there are plenty of options out there, and I'm going to try to cover a few of those different options, but I'm going to focus on one specifically. Now, again, everybody has a different way that they collect. There's no absolute way that you have to do it. There's no right or wrong way, but selling is often a big part of this hobby, so I thought it would be useful to create this video, especially for anybody that's newer into this hobby. Now, the first thing I wanted to start with is how to know when to sell your books, because this was a question that I got specifically. And this really does depend on your situation. There is no right or wrong, hard and fast rule about when to sell your comics. Now, it really, like I said, depends on what type of situation you're in. Are you a dealer or a collector? For me, I would classify myself closer to a dealer. I mean, you see how much I buy, and it's because I'm selling a lot. So I am always selling, I am always buying. And so that puts me a little more in a category where I'm not waiting for some very specific event to sell necessarily. I'm not selling really specifically to pick up one specific book, that kind of thing. I'm selling all the time to buy more books. Now, if that's not your situation, there are other ways to look at this. So look at the reason why you're selling. Are you selling books to buy other books? If you're looking to pick up some big key or grail and you need to move books because of that, that's a great reason to sell your books. If you need money for something else outside of comics, maybe you have some need for your family, a car payment, a house payment, anything like that. Those are reasons to sell your comics. Remember, comics are also investments. Could just be that you're looking to reduce your collection. If you've got 100 short boxes or long boxes sitting around in your house and it's just taking up too much space and you don't want to deal with it anymore, it could be reducing that collection. It's also something that can have to do with the opportunity cost of that money. If you think that there's something else you can do with the money that's invested into those comics and you're better off moving it into that, that could be another reason to sell. So all of those things can be reasons to sell your books. Now, it is important, in my mind, to know what you spent on your books. So I keep detailed records of all of that, so I know what I spent, and so I know where I have to be if I'm selling a book. That's something I do recommend if you're looking to get into selling, is keeping those types of records. But that's up to you. If you have bought books prior to the last 4 months and you have books from that time period, you're probably quite a bit up, especially on keys, and so I don't think you have to worry too much about what you spent on the book. But if you've bought more recently, prices have started fluctuating a little bit up and down, so it can be useful to know where you're at compared to the current market prices. Now, the first thing that I like to say if you're getting into selling books is don't look back. Don't look back at the sales that you've made in the past and where prices are now, because especially right now, prices have gone up so much. And so you can look back at a book that you maybe sold a year ago and it's worth 4 times as much now, and that can be really tough to stomach. But if you've bought other books since then, they've probably gone up as well. And so that's not really something to worry about. And it doesn't benefit you any. There's no gain in looking back at what you could have had right now, because you can't get that book back now for that prior price. There's no point in complaining that the market has gotten too hot, too fast, all of this, and that's why you can't afford the books now. It's just let those books go. They're in the past. You don't have them anymore. And just kind of let that be the end of it. The next thing that is really important is to know what you're selling. And so really understand as much as you can about that book that you're looking to sell. This is where I really recommend using things like price consolidation tools. These are tools like Cover Price, Go Collect, GPA, all those different tools that pull in prices for prior sales so you know about the value of the book that you're selling. Also, it's important to know the key issues. Do you have any of those important key issues? Those are the ones that especially have gone up the most recently. They're the ones that are going to be the easiest to sell. They're going to be the ones that are the most liquid. So, and what I mean by when I say that they're the most liquid is that they'll sell more quickly. It's easier to find somebody that's interested in that book. For example, if you have just a random Green Lantern issue, or you have Green Lantern 87, the first appearance of John Stewart, that book is going to be a lot more liquid because a lot of people are interested in that book. A lot of people want that book. So it's important to know what those key issues are. It's also important to follow things like the CGC census. There's also a CBCS census now, but the CGC census is easy to get to. You can look at it on CGC's website. You can create a free account there, see all the data there for free. Also, if you use a tool like Go Collect, they have a link to CGC where they actually pull that data in for you, so you don't even have to go anywhere else. Now, I have found that sometimes that data is not always up to date on Go Collect, so if you see something that looks a little incorrect, maybe out of date, go and check the CGC site. But it is important to know what you're selling. This keeps you from pricing books incorrectly, too low, and so that you just end up selling it for too low of a price. Somebody else just grabs it quickly, and you could have made more money on that book. And because if you're selling your book, if you've bought this thing, if you've spent all this time and effort collecting those books, storing them, keeping them safe, why would you just want to give them away? You want to get the most value you can for them. Next thing is selling a book graded or raw. Now, you might think that you should always get a book graded, that's how you should sell the book, but that's really not the case. You don't always need to get a book graded to sell it. Oftentimes, it's better just to sell that book raw. What you really need to do is learn what it costs to get that book graded, and not just the money, also the time. Because especially with the backlogs that are with CGC and CBCS now, it's months before you're going to get those books back. And so if something is hot right now and you're looking to sell it right now, if you send that book in, you might not see it for 6 or 7 months. And if that's the case, it may not be hot anymore by the time you get it back. And then you can't really sell it for what you could have. And so selling the book raw it may have been the better option. Now, if you're talking about older books, so I'm saying gold, silver, Bronze Age books, selling the books raw, one thing I've really noticed over the last, I'd say 8 months to a year, is that raw prices have really come into line with graded prices. You will often see raw books sell for the same as graded books. And that's because the book doesn't necessarily need to be in a 9.8 grade to have a lot of value. If you have a book that is an 8.0, why should you sell it for half the price of an 8.0 graded book? As long as you know how to grade, as long as you can evaluate that book. So I've been seeing raw books really sell for almost on par with graded books a lot of the time. Now, if you're talking about modern books, if you have books that really have most of their value based on the fact that they are in a 9.8 condition, those ones you really do need to get graded to maximize the value of that book. You may have a book that raw you can only sell for $10 or $20, and that's because at a 9.6 it might only be worth $10 or $20 or $30, but at a 9.8, say it's worth $100 or $120. And so with those types of books, you're not going to be able to sell that book as a 9.8 raw. And so if you really want to maximize your value, you've got to get it graded. So understand where you can sell those books graded versus raw. And like I said, a lot of the times I've really found that you can sell these books raw without having to have the time and money spent on grading. So just something to consider. All right, now the next tip, know what your options are for selling. So there are tons of places that you can sell your books. There's not just one option out there. I'm just going to give a few of the options that are out there. There's eBay, which is honestly my personal favorite. I love selling on eBay. So despite all the hate that eBay seems to get, that is my favorite option for selling. But there's also heritage auctions, which I talk about all the time with my market videos. Comic Link, that's another auction house for comics. Comic Connect, which is another auction house. You could sell on Instagram, so you could create your own following, so build up followers and sell books there. Now there are some challenges with selling on Instagram. One is that if you're trying to sell by making posts on Instagram really aren't seen by anybody after about 24 hours. I mean, they're still up there, but Instagram doesn't really share them anymore at that point. And so if you don't sell a book after about 24 hours, you've got to keep relisting and keep relisting. And so what a lot of people do on Instagram is they do live sales. And so that's a great option if you've built up followers to start doing live sales on Instagram, because a big benefit there is that you don't have the fees that you're going to pay to one of these auction houses. There's also some apps now that have been built to sell comics. For example, there's one called Shortboxed, so that's an option. And recently, another app called Whatnot. And so you do have some other options out there, plenty of options for selling your books if you want to. Now, it is important to understand what the fees are. So that's my next topic, is understanding the fees that you have when you are selling your books. And so with eBay, it's a little bit complicated because you have different fees on if you're just selling as a standard user versus a user that's paying for a store subscription. If you're a standard user, selling a comic book has a fee of 12.55%. If you have a store, it's 11.7%. But one thing that's really important to know is that if you're selling an expensive book, eBay is an awesome option, especially if you have a store. Because if you have a store, your fee drops to 2.65% above $2,500. If you don't have a store, it drops to 2.65% above $7,500. So I have an example where I sold my Adventure Comics 61 recently for $3,750. So that first $2,500 I paid 11.7% because I have a store. For the remaining $1,250, I only paid 2.65% for that remaining amount. So my total fees were somewhere around, it was like 8.5 or 8.8%. That's lower than you're going to get anywhere. And so that's where I'm saying, people say, oh, eBay charges too many fees, all of that. But if you're selling an expensive book, your fees are very reasonable. So it's a great option. Now with Heritage, there is a seller's fee and a buyer's fee. And so that total comes to about 30%. Now you can negotiate some of those fees depending on how big your book is. Like if you're selling a massive book or a large collection, you can negotiate with them to get those fees down. But if you're just selling one book, you're probably going to be paying quite a bit of fees to Heritage. So just be aware of that. Your fees will be probably somewhere around 30%. If you're selling to Comic Link, your fees will be from about 10% to 25%. Now most sellers, it's going to be 10%. And that's if you're just doing their standard consignment, you're sending a book to them and they're selling it in one of their auctions. But if they're doing their full service, then they will have additional fees that go with that. And so that could be you sending them a collection and they're either grading it or they're sending it off to CGC or CBCS to get it graded before it gets sold. All that kind of stuff adds extra fees onto the final sales price. Now with Shortboxed, it's just a flat 10% fee, so that one's pretty easy. With Comic Connect, it's usually 10%, but sometimes there's a buyer's premium. And on the listing, it'll say if there's a buyer's premium or not, but most of the time, Comic Connect is also 10%. My comic shop, it's between 8 and 10%, so it just depends what you're selling with them, so you work that out with them. And with Whatnot, it's 8% plus the 2.9% for payment management. So it's about 11% on Whatnot. So most of these options are going to be around 10 to 11%. And that's why I say eBay really isn't that much more expensive. 11.7% for a store, and if you're selling big items, it's actually quite a bit cheaper. And your views on eBay are going to be significantly higher than you're going to get anywhere else. And so that's something that you do have to consider. You're going to get more views on eBay. They are going to advertise out there for you. Like if you go on to Go Collect and you search for a certain book, you see little listings down in the corner. And those listings are books that are on eBay that match. And so they're doing all of that work for you, and that's what that fee is also for. Like for example, if you buy on eBay and you get email notifications about things you might be interested in, that's them selling your stuff for you. So that's really what you're paying for there. Now, if you don't want to pay any fees, you have that's where Instagram really comes into play, or having your own site that you're selling your books on. Now, it's not necessarily no fees selling on Instagram. You do have things like PayPal fees if you're doing payment processing. That's why a lot of people do friends and family, but PayPal just keeps banning account after account that abuses friends and family for sales. So that's why when I sell using PayPal, I use goods and services. It costs me 2.9% plus 30 cents or whatever it is. And I think I just got an email that they might be raising their fees a little bit, but still, it's not that much, just a few percent, and it's less than what you're paying on any of these other sites. Now, you can use other options like Cash App that doesn't have any fees, or Zelle. So there are options out there where you're not going to get your account banned, but you do tend to have limits on how much money you can transfer over certain periods of time using those different options. So just, it is important, understand those fees. Now, my next few items are really going to focus on eBay because that's where most of my experience is. That's where I generally sell. And I think that that's a great place for someone to get started if they want to sell their books. And the reason is that it's a really low barrier to entry. It's very easy to create an account. If you want, get a store and just start selling. Now, they do usually give you a low sales limit, meaning that you can only list so much value in items at first. And this is because they want to make sure you're not some scammer. And so you need to build up some sales and some feedback before they will gradually increase your amount of listings that you're allowed. And they do increase it pretty quickly if you're actually moving a lot of comics or a lot of whatever you're selling. So it's not really something that you have to worry about too much. And like I said earlier, I know people complain about eBay all the time, but you get a lot of views. There's a lot of people on eBay. I still buy on eBay. I mean, I go on there looking for books too. And so, yeah, you're paying maybe a little bit more in fees, but you're getting way more views, and you're getting all those other benefits that I talked about earlier about them really advertising for you. Now, the other thing that I personally really like about eBay is that it's really kind of a set it and forget it. And so I do mostly fixed price listings. And so I put the book up there, I list the price that I'm comfortable selling it at, and then it's just up there listed until it sells. And so I don't have to keep thinking about it like you do with Instagram, or if you're talking about Comic Link or Comic Connect, worrying if you're selling it at the wrong time and having to reach out to them to pull the listing or put it back up, that kind of thing. Now, with eBay, you do also have the option for auctions. So you can sell it more quickly, get that book sold within a week if you really need the money. But just know that you will almost always get less money selling at auction versus fixed price. And so you're taking that reduced amount of money to sell your book to get it sold faster. So just be aware of that if you're doing an auction, you will likely get less than if you waited and did a fixed price. Now, I talked about setting up a store, and so I think setting up a store is a really good option if you're looking into selling on eBay, but you do want to look at the cost benefit for doing that. A store, for me, I have the basic store subscription, and I pay for the year, so I get a reduced cost. I think it costs about $23 per month. And so if you sell $2,800 or more in books per month, then it's worthwhile to get that store. Now, for me, with that one book that I sold, that Adventure Comics 61, the amount of money I saved having a store versus not having a store covered about 6 months of store fees. And so you can see that it's well worth it, especially if you're selling bigger books, to have a store. Now, they do have an option for a starter store, but don't even bother with it. There's no value to it, really. You get a few more free listings, but you don't get any of the benefit of the reduced fees. They still have the same fees. So if you're going to get a store, go for the basic store or higher if you have thousands of listings if you need way more listings, but basic store is what I would go with. Now, another thing, if I would recommend getting on Instagram regardless. Instagram is great. There's just a great comic community there. It's good for talking with people, seeing what's going on with comics. It's also great for just buying books. Now, if you're on Instagram though, I recommend using the same name for your Instagram account as your eBay account, because if somebody finds a book that they're interested from you on eBay, they maybe don't want to pay that price that has the fees in it, and so they might reach out to you on Instagram and you can give them a reduced price, because in the end it's the same net to you if you back out the fees that you'd be paying to eBay. So you just work that out on Instagram. They reach out to you on Instagram, you pull the listing on eBay, and you both end up happier. They get the book for less, you get the same net amount for your book. And so I do recommend make it easy to find you. There's so many situations where I see that people have different names on eBay versus Instagram, and it makes it really difficult to find people. So I recommend using the same name both places. Now, when you're making your listings, the title is absolutely critical. The title is how your book gets found. That's how you see when people say, oh, I got this great deal on this book because the person spelled Spider-Man wrong, something like that. It's because nobody could find that book. And so this one person that happened to get lucky and see that book got it for way less because the person didn't take the time to make an accurate title. So make sure that you have the name of the book correct, the issue number, put in the year that the book was published, and then put in any key facts. So if it's a first appearance, say first appearance of whoever. And so those things that people are likely to search against will pop up. So that is critical. Make sure you put in lots of pictures. If it's a raw book, as many pictures as you can. They allow 12 pictures, and I generally use all 12 when I'm selling a raw book. I do the front cover inside and outside, the back cover inside and outside. I do close-ups of the front and back cover, and then I also do the centerfold, because you want people to be able to see page quality, all of that. And if there's any specific flaws that you think maybe aren't real clear on the further out pictures, take closer pictures of them, or make sure you note them in the description. So that's the last thing. Make sure you put in a good description, because you don't want people to think that you tried to mislead them or cheat them. That's how you end up getting lower feedback scores, getting returns, all of that. So if there are any flaws that are on there that aren't clear in the pictures, put them in the description. Just make sure that you're open and honest with people, so that then even if you do have somebody that returns something and they try to give you a negative feedback, you can reach out to eBay and show them and say, hey, look, I provided all this information. They just didn't read the description, and eBay will often remove that negative feedback as long as you can prove that. So just cover yourself, take a little bit of extra time, and put those notes in there. Now with graded books, the grade is really what primarily drives it. So you could just do the front and back of the slab. Now for me, I do front and back of the slab, then I also do a close-up of the front and back as well. And if there's any types of cracks or larger scratches or scuffs, I'll try to get pictures of those as well. Sometimes scuffs can be hard, but that kind of thing, just to make sure that, again, you're open and honest with people, and then even if they return something, you have something you can show eBay to say, hey, they just didn't take the time to look at this. I had all the correct information out there. I wasn't misleading. And that helps you keep that high rating so that people trust you when they're coming to buy books from you. Now, the next thing is one of the biggest complaints that you'll often see with eBay is shipping. People always complain that shipping is terrible on eBay. And a big part of that, I think, is just that a lot of times it's people that aren't familiar with comics. They aren't comic people shipping these books. And so make sure that you ship your books well. If you're shipping raw books, use something like a Gemini mailer. Use additional cardboard on the inside of the mailer to make sure that there's that extra stiffness. Use bags and boards. If you're shipping a slab, ship it in a box. Do not ship it in a bubble mailer, anything like that. Ship it in a box. I recommend the USPS 1095 boxes. And so what I'm talking about there is, you can see right here, it says 1095 August 2020. So if you go to the USPS store, they You can order them and they will ship them to you. It costs nothing. The boxes cost nothing. The shipping costs nothing. They'll send them to you for free. You can buy them in packages of 10 or 25. These are a little bit bigger than the medium flat rate, and so to me, I think they fit slabs just a little bit better. They give me a little extra buffer. Medium flat rates are okay, but they felt a little too tight to me. I'm not always real comfortable shipping in those, so I use these 1095s. Do not use 1092s. Those are usually what's at the post office, and I've gotten books shipped in 1092s, and those slabs are almost always pushing on the ends. So I do not recommend using 1092s. I recommend going to USPS.com, search for 1095. You will find those, and just order a package of 10 or 25 of them. And whenever you're starting to run low, order more. That's what I do when I'm shipping my slabs. 2 slabs fit in there easily. If I'm shipping more than 2 slabs, I use a different box. I'll use something from Uline, something that's a little bit wider. And so that just gives me a little extra buffer. I know I can fit 3 slabs in there, but I am not comfortable shipping 3 slabs in one of those boxes. The next thing is just try your best to be polite and respectful to people, whether it's on Instagram or on eBay. I mean, it can be tough sometimes. I mean, I've had some people that have sent some rude comments and things like that to me on eBay, but you just let it go, just block it, don't worry about it. It doesn't do anything for you to get into arguments with them. And if somebody sends you a lowball offer, I mean, I hate the lowball offers. I really do. But you can either just ignore it, or you can throw back what you think is a reasonable offer. I have had a few cases where somebody has sent me really low offers, and then we've ended up working out a deal on the book. It doesn't happen very often, though. Usually if I'm getting a lowball offer, it's not really worth my time. It's actually why I switched from having offers on my fixed price listings. I turned them off because so often I would just get $100 offers for $1,000 books, and I'm just like, I don't need this. So people can still message me, and they can ask if I'll take less for a book. I might not. But eBay does allow you to send offers through messages. So if they do that, if I feel like I want to give an offer, I can send an offer back at a lower price. But that has drastically reduced the number of lowball garbage offers that I've gotten. So that helps my stress a little bit with selling. But again, you never know who you're going to end up selling to, what type of relationship you might build. So it's always good. Just be polite, be respectful. And the last thing is just go out and try it. The best confidence builder for selling is experience. It is selling books. And for me, the first time that I was selling on eBay, I was pretty terrified when I was selling my first books. I was nervous about packaging. It took me forever to package everything at first because I was just being so careful, and I was always worried something was going to happen. And so you'll figure it out. You'll get more comfortable with it, but you just have to start selling, and then it gets a little easier. You get a little more comfortable with it, and you realize it's really not that hard. It's not that big of a deal. Now, again, if you don't want to use something like eBay, you can go to My Comic Shop, Comic Link, Comic Connect, any of those other places. You can just send your books to them, have them auctioned, and be done with it. But for me, I like the control that I get with a fixed price. I don't like leaving things up to chance, and I think part of the reason is that I have gotten such good deals on those types of auctions. So I know there is the possibility that you could end up selling your book for way under market when you put it in an auction, and so that's just a risk that you take with that. So that's why I like eBay, but don't have to go that route. But again, best confidence builder is experience. So if you're looking to sell books, if you're interested in starting to sell your books, just open an eBay account, put up some listings, and see what happens. So if you thought this video is useful, please hit that like button, hit the subscribe button if you'd like to see more content like this. I've got more videos over here if you'd like to watch those, and the subscription button right here if you'd like to subscribe to the channel. I'd really appreciate it, and I will see you in the next video.